Wow, I'm surprised to see so many people. Why are you still here? Why haven't you ascended off into some heavenly nirvana? No? Sorry? You're waiting for me? We are still here. Thank God. Thank God that bubble has burst. I am so thrilled that 2012 is behind us. Why? Because maybe we can get on with the real work. Maybe with all that hype gone, all that confusion, all that delusion, maybe we can get on with what it's really all about. So what is it really all about? To me, it is about the journey of ascension, but it doesn't happen at the click of a finger like that. We have to work for it. Yeah, we have to walk the path. To me, it's about becoming something I've been given to call Homo Divinicus. It's a name that's come to me. It's about being a divine, multidimensional being, which I believe is where we actually came from via a fairly convoluted route. But I also think that's what we're going back to, multidimensional beings. But with a difference, I believe we are evolving not just as souls, not just ascending as souls, but also evolving this physicality. And there's quite a sense of urgency for that as well. Why is that? We'll be looking at why is this sense of urgency. And whilst we're still here, and we haven't ascended, we haven't all risen into the higher dimensions yet, something very definite has happened. And people all across the planet have felt something shift. Something has shifted within Gaia. And this is what I want to look at tonight as well. So I'm going to look at a whole bunch of areas. I'm going to look at 4 key things. I'm going to look at the planetary shift that I believe did happen on the winter solstice. I'm going to look at extraterrestrial intervention on planet Earth, because this is a big part of what is going on around us right now. And I know it's a little difficult sometimes, a little way out there to get our heads around some kind of intervention going on from other dimensions. But it is real, it is here, and I believe there's plenty of proof for it. And in these next months and years, that's going to come to the fore, and we'll get to understand why our journey has been so convoluted as it has. We'll look at the spiritual path very briefly. I've looked at the 5 gateways here many times before, several times before, so we'll go through that briefly. And then finally, I'll come on to what I mean by Homo Divinicus, what that's really all about, what I'm given to understand by it and experience from it. Okay, so the planetary shift, the rebirth of Gaia. And for many, it was experienced as a rebirth. What exactly was going on? In the first sequence of seminars I did about 5 gateways, I talked about the universe beginning as like pure presence, absoluteness, everything, nothing, pure isness. I said, imagine this black spot being everything and nothing. Everything because at that time that's all there was. There was only nothing, so nothing was everything. And I talked about the probability that that would stay as it was or would subdivide into parts of itself, but these parts are pure consciousness. Consciousness being awareness of a difference between one thing and another. And I talked about these waves of separation consciousness, the green line, if you like, the green lines, spreading outwards like ripples on a pond. But just as the ripples on a pond spread outwards, so this is the Big Bang, of course. This is the Big Bang. But just as the ripples spread outwards, you have this undertow, this pull back of unity consciousness. And the pull back causes the separation to condense. Consciousness gets denser, forms matter, gases, liquids, solids. If you ever wonder, well, how can pure presence make something solid? Well, this is mostly space, 99.999% space. And the rest that is matter is just little waves of energy. So it's really all just conscious awareness that we're talking about, and the pull back to the center caused the consciousness to condense and to form waves of reality, standing waves of consciousness. And in my personal knowing, 11 in all. And this agrees quite aptly with quantum science. Quantum science also talks about 11 dimensions of reality. The 5 string theories it talked of converged into one when they discovered that there was 11 dimensions. And these 11 dimensions are arrayed into realms of existence. So you have the first, or physical density dimension, the second, the third, forming the lower realm in which we're mostly communicating now. This is the lower realm. And this is separated by a bridge. The fourth dimension, or the karmic plane, which I think, when they talked about in the Bible as Moses parting the Red Sea, to me this is also very much a metaphor for parting this red bridge of karma into the next realm of consciousness, which is the middle realm. The fifth, sixth, seventh dimensions clustered together to form this next realm, separated also by another bridge, barrier, the eighth dimension, which also contains karma, but is cosmic karma. It's not just personal to you, but it's cosmic, related to the movement of planets, of deities, of cosmic souls. So it's karma related to cosmic events. And then the higher realm of the 9th, 10th, 11th dimensions. And you could actually liken this to an apple. So what science believes now, and quite a few spiritual people as well, is that the universe, when it condensed into the form of a torus, which looks a bit like an apple. And if you can imagine that the core through the center represents a spinning vortex of emptiness. If I cut the apple in two along what would be what you might call its equator, like that, so I still have this core going through the center, this spinning vortex, then I could put it here, and I have the realms going outwards forming the layers of the apple, but I also have the pull back in, which is that of unity consciousness. So the universe is shaped a bit like an apple. Interesting that, considering we have this incredible story of Adam and Eve biting from the apple and getting lost in the illusion of materiality. I also have an Apple computer with a bite out of the logo. Again, the symbology is carried through the whole of history. Amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. So, what we experienced happening with Gaia was that she moved her center of consciousness from the 3rd dimension up into the 5th dimension. And for those who felt it, it was a very palpable shift. A very palpable shift indeed. Back at the beginning of 2012, I had a lucid dream. And the dream said, if you go up and watch the tour from roundabouts on the 21st of December, you will see lights shaping, which will give you a picture of something that is taking place, something truly profound in the nature of reality. That's the dream, lucid dream I had. I was awake when it happened. And actually, I forgot all about the dream as the year progressed. But about just before midnight on the 21st, I woke up. For the 2 or 3 days prior to that, I'd been feeling this huge buildup of energy in my body. And people I'd been speaking to, also connecting through our web community, they too had been feeling this build up in their body. And quite a few sensitive women were feeling like they were giving birth, literally giving birth. In fact, some close friends in Budapest were running a birthing workshop right through this period. And they were having this incredible feeling of giving birth. I felt compelled to get up and gather a few friends that I know who live with us, the kind of the Openhand team. I woke them out of the beds. They weren't too happy about it because it was midnight. And but I didn't feel to go to the tour. And this is the most important thing. If you want to witness multi-dimensional language speaking to you, but you have to be beyond this. You have to switch off expectation, because expectation overrides the natural flow. So the kind of expectation was to go towards the tour, but the pull said otherwise. It said Wirial Hill. So that's where we went. We went up to Wirial Hill, and we're stood up there, and as we're going up the hill, Trinity, my partner, she's taking on the energy of Gaia as if she's carrying a baby, literally. She could hardly walk up the hill. We literally had to, carry her up the hill. She was that heavy. When you become so empathic, you can feel the consciousness of other beings as if it is your own. And she was feeling the consciousness of Gaia as if she was that. And so we were being spoken to in very clear terms. And we got up onto the Wirial Hill, and it's then that I started to recall this idea, this dream that I'd had, to look at the tour on roughly about the 21st of December, if I got moved to do so. So I looked back at the tour, but I didn't see any lights, at least not in the sky. But then suddenly my attention is drawn down to the ground between where I stood and the tour. And what did I see? I saw this. Now, if you try and look at this with the mind, you probably won't see a great deal at all. You'll probably see a V like that, and you'll probably see something in the middle here. The point is, when you are in a multi-dimensional conversation with a cosmic consciousness like Gaia, you have to step beyond the mind. You have to get out of the mind, and then she will speak to you. She will speak to you through signs and symbology, and she will tell you something. But you have to be beyond this. And as I looked at that on the ground, the street lights on the ground, I saw something very clear. It spoke to me very strongly in my heart, and it moved me to the point of tears. They were welling up within me. And what it said to me, this is a diagram of a woman giving birth. Here are the legs, here's the vagina, and here is the baby. That's what I saw. And I showed it to the others, and they saw it too. They could feel it too, because Gaia was speaking to us all. When we walked down off Wirial Hill, and we opened the gate to get out onto the road, which was one of these legs along here, what should we see? But there is a Land Rover right by the gate, and on the Land Rover, someone has tied the leg of a mannequin doll. I'm serious, to the front of this Land Rover. This is how synchronicity speaks. Of course, you could pass it off. It's just coincidence. How often are you going to see that? Someone tying a mannequin's doll's leg to the front of their car. I mean, how weird is that? So we were being spoken to, and we felt a very clear pull to go down to this point of the V where the birth had taken place. Now remember, this is a metaphoric journey. This is a metaphoric experience. I'm not saying Gaia gave birth at that point. Of course, she's giving birth around the whole world. But we were being given a message very clearly, and it was going to speak to us in symbol, signs, metaphor. So we went down to the point of the V, and yes, we came to this church, which happens to be the Rural Life Museum. And if you take a look at the Rural Life But having a multidimensional open conversation from the heart, what we saw was this. We saw Gaia. We saw a baby. We saw 4 dimensions into the 5th dimension, 3 other dimensions into the higher realm, which is effectively what I'm showing on here. That's what we saw. You might not see it with the mind, but when you connect through the heart and have a conversation with it, you know what it's saying. This is how signs and symbols and synchronicity work. And we could feel this shift had happened, and we felt that Gaia was speaking to us. Now, in the days following this, I'd been driving out around the UK. It was Christmas time, of course. To me, it felt like, and it feels now like, the life force of the planet has shifted from the lower realm to the middle realm. It feels like the life force has shifted. And when I was going around your supermarkets, your service stations, all preparing for Christmas, the motorways, the towns, to me it wasn't like a usual festive period. It felt very subdued. I don't know what you guys felt, but it felt like the energy was moving out of that consciousness. You know, I went into a couple of town centers on Christmas Eve. You would normally expect them to be packed, so you couldn't travel. But it was like a normal day. Of course, the media was trying to ramp it all up. You know, like on Boxing Day, I went out on Boxing Day into Bath. It was like a ghost town. It was like a ghost town. The energy has shifted and people are feeling it. And so what is going to happen now? Well, to me, the center of consciousness of Gaia has shifted and been reborn in the middle realm. Of course, the big question is what happens now in the lower realm. To me, various tipping points have already been kicked off, have already been activated. Only this week, only today, it was reported that Australia was having 50 plus centigrade temperatures in southern Australia, at the same time as Russia is having minus 50 centigrade. At the same time, there's floods in Israel. Never happens. And there's been floods happening in the UK all winter. Of course, we get plenty of rain in the UK. But it's been a little extraordinary. Anybody would agree to that, surely. It's just been almost non-stop. And then we have, of course, the tornadoes in America. There were 34 tornadoes crossing the southern America. That's not reported in the mainstream media, but it happened. There are earthquakes happening all across the planet that are not being reported on. Because the Matrix wants business as usual. It wants it all to continue. It wants people to keep spending and going out in the shops. It wants that whole system to continue. But it isn't. It isn't continuing. And the energy is shifting. And what I saw, and I have stood here, you know, last year, I stood here, you know, a couple of years before that, and said the same thing that I saw in the car crash. And that is the movement of energy into the higher paradigm. And I saw the collapsing of the matrix, and I saw the collapse of the systems and everything we've come to depend upon here in this realm. That's what I saw, and that's what I feel is happening now. And I don't share it to spread fear. I share it to invite people to contemplate the truth. Because when you embrace the truth will set you free. Right now, there are over 100 species of creature leaving the planet every day. That's according to the World Wildlife Fund. Over 100 species a day. That is a mass extinction. That is far, far faster than the previous 5 mass extinctions. We are in the 6th mass extinction. We are in the 6th mass moving on of consciousness. And when we get real about it, and when we embrace the truth of what's going on with climate change, with dwindling natural resources, with financial instability, when we embrace the truth, there is nothing to fear, because you know what? We are all eternal beings. And if we can embrace our eternal nature, we will move on into this next paradigm. We will ascend and we will continue our journey. But it's not going to look pretty here in the immediate term, depending on how you look at it. If you look at what's going to happen in the world in the next 2 or 3 generations, if you look at it with fear and sense of loss, you'll see plenty of evidence of that's going to happen. It already is happening. But if you embrace the possibility to let go of the whole idea and notion that you are separate from all that is, that you have to suffer because of identification with the material world, if you let go of that, if you let go of your investment in the apple and become that which you are, that which infuses the apple, which infuses life, if you become that which you are, there is nothing to fear. And everything that peels away around you, you will simply feel as a greater expansion, a greater connection, a greater sense of divinity. This is what Homo Divinicus is all about. This is the incredible opportunity that you and I, that we have all got now coming to us. Amazing opportunity, but we have to get real. We have to get real about it. Yeah, we have to embrace the beauty of spirituality, but in a very real, grounded, earthy kind of way. Because it's by connection through the earth, by connection to Gaia, that we will ascend. We have to go through our challenges, through our density, through our fears, through our resistances, through our attachments, and release them, so we can reclaim what we really are. This is what the journey for me is next about. It's all about choosing ascension. Someone's calling for us now to join them. It's all about choosing ascension. What I would like to do is show you a brief film that my partner Trinity made.
It's been prophesied and spoken of for centuries. It's magical and mystical. To the uninitiated, it may seem way out, weird and wacky, but in fact it's grounded in the quantum fabric of science. It is very ordinary, awesomely ordinary. It is Ascension. At the dawning of time itself, 2 flows of consciousness came into being like ripples in space, one outwards to an ever greater sense of separation from the all that is, and the other inwards to a greater sense of connection and at one-ment. It is a feeling within, an increasing sense of harmony and unconditional love, but it's also a physical movement of energy mirrored through our lives and into the outer world. This is Ascension. Imagine yourself as the creator casting a pebble into a universal pond. Ripples form, yet the water itself is not moving, only the disturbance spreads outwards. This is what we see of the physical universe. But the water, the space, stays in place because of the undertow, the movement back to the center, to the source. This is Ascension. Each wave on this universal pond represents a dimension, a density, a frequency of vibration like tuning stations on a radio. We may occupy several dimensions clustered together, a realm of existence, providing a framework of relativity, the physicality through which we can gain the ultimate, an experience of life itself. Right now, our planet is on the cusp of a change. The soul of the Earth, Gaia herself, is centering her consciousness in a higher vibration, the 5th density. It's one of the most magical phenomena of the universe, the rebirth of a star, a new Earth. And through the underlying pull of consciousness, she's inviting all sentient life to join her there. We are indeed blessed to be alive in these times of profound change. This movement of energy, this ascension, whether we know it or not, is affecting every single thought, feeling and emotion we each currently have. We're either making choices in life based on fear and sense of lack, or trust and unconditional love. All choices are formed of this one simple dynamic. It defines the very nature of our existence, the reality we experience, and the outer world we manifest. When we engage the pull of our soul by listening and aligning with it, it causes us to confront all our resistances, our attachments to the moment, our identification with the physicality of life. We're caused to unravel these, to go inwards and let go, in which case the soul integrates internally, expands and reconnects with the natural flow of the moment, with the flow of Gaia, with the flow of Ascension. As we confront our resistances and open a wider internal space, these new energies flood in, infuse our being and transform our consciousness. Our own vibrational frequency rises. We become the multidimensional beings we are always designed to be. Ascension is an open invitation to everyone, but it is a choice, one we must make consciously in every moment. You can't force someone to choose the higher paradigm. They have to see it, feel it, and align with it for themselves. Right now, it is only the small minority who are making that constant conscious choice, which is necessary for the transition to happen. As we do increasingly make the higher choice, as we confront and peel away the lower consciousness, we'll feel it with increased sense of peace, at one with all things, expanding sense of timelessness, and increased occurrence of synchronicity. We begin to live in two worlds, the two realms simultaneously, one overlapping the other. Now these two parallel worlds will not last indefinitely, at least not in a form we can continue to live in. A great cleansing is coming to the physical earth, one that is necessary to rebalance the inequity, injustice, and lower harmony that has been created here. It's caused a bottleneck in the universal flow, trapping the higher light which is now transmuting and breaking free. So in the years ahead, the old consciousness will fracture, fragment, and peel away like a worn-out skin. It will look increasingly dark to all those still identifying with the old existence. Accelerating climate change, dwindling natural resources, financial instability, the old paradigm will be churned up, composted, so that the light may release. How you see it will depend on your level of release, your level of surrender, expansion, and alignment with the higher flow, the flow of love. So now's the time to have courage, to let go. It's time to release the old systems we've depended upon. Financial, political, educational, religious, are all coming to an end. They're all forms of consciousness connected by the unraveling flow that breaks apart lower harmonies. They're not needed in the new realm of personal responsibility and co-creative conscious alignment. So why hang on? Why continue to invest in a system long past its sell-by date? A new world is there, and the inner gateways are open for us all to join it. But you have to choose it in every single moment. To a being with free will, ascension is not automatic, it is a choice. We are blessed to be alive in these times, no matter how challenging they may appear to be. Ascension is a challenge that presents enormous opportunity for evolutionary growth. It is a challenge we are all seeded to master. an entirely natural process when we choose it.
Nice film, huh? Thank you. There's a really important reason why Ascension is so important to us now, why it's so prevalent now, why it's so urgent now, why Gaia has had to make this shift now. There's a very important reason. It is extraterrestrial intervention on Earth. Prior to the 21st of December, prior to the solstice, I was pulled out to Egypt. And to me, I was experiencing and feeling the requirement, the need for a breakdown, for a breakthrough of the restrictive matrix, the dense web of energy that society is currently governed by, that governs all our systems of supply, of education, of food, of government. All of these things are controlled by a lower harmony that to me has been put in place by what I call an opposing consciousness, which has intervened on Earth for millions of years. Millions of years, the intervention has happened. But I'd like to talk about just briefly two specific events within that intervention. The first one was the seeding of humanity. Now, to me, in my knowing, this was done by a benevolent consciousness that wished to bring on the consciousness of hominoids at the time, that were evolving and needed a new vehicle through which to articulate the expansion of individual soul. Hence, a choice was made to intervene in a positive, benevolent way. At this point, I'd just like to leave it at that. What I'd really like to focus on is what happened around 50,000 years BC, when, for some reason, Cro-Magnon became a much less able Homo sapiens, a smaller brain capacity, thinner bones, weaker muscles. What on earth is the positive evolutionary advantage of that to a hunter-gatherer? Why would that being be downgraded? Why would that happen? Why would that being become weaker and less smart, less connected? Why would that happen? Why is it that of all of the species on the planet that have maybe 100 genetic disorders, we have 5,000? How is it that we have 223 genes in our makeup that you see nowhere else on any other life form on the planet? Why is that the case? Why has this happened? When you look into our genome, when you look at our chromosomes, there is, to me, incontrovertible evidence that engineering has taken place. But you also see it in the pyramids, okay? So these pyramids, 15 million tons of block, some of the hardest rock on the planet, cut perfectly into shape to fit into these incredible pyramids, these incredible structures, aligned perfectly with the 4 cardinal points. Not just the 4 cardinal points, but the 3 main pyramids align perfectly with Orion's belt. Exact mirror of Orion's belt. But not just of Orion's belt. When Orion's belt was at its lowest point in what's called the precession of the equinoxes, 10,450 BC. Yes, the pyramids are much, much older than the traditional thinking would have us believe. The Sphinx, it's been proved recently that the weathering that's taken place on it shows that it must have happened through intense rain that happened around the 11th millennia BC. This is when they were built. There are chambers pointing out to Sirius and to other constellations like Draco. I mean, cut into the side perfectly. When you go inside one of these pyramids, has anyone ever been inside one of the pyramids? You have, yeah? I mean, to me, I felt just an incredible energy compressing me, is how I felt it. They are power stations. They are energetic power stations. And you go to the Valley of the Kings. I entered the Valley of the Kings. I walk into the valley, and literally I'm an expanded being. I am a multidimensional being. I feel energy. I walked into the valley, I could hardly stand up. The energy was so dense. This is the matrix. It's playing a very dull, low frequency, and it attaches people to the density. It gets people into the whole physicality of life. And we become so desensitized, so cut off from the higher dimensions that we don't even notice that this is what's going on. You know, we eat the food that society is producing with all the chemicals and hormones and everything else in it. The Wi-Fi, mobile, foam masts, all these kinds of things. We don't feel it because we're down in this physicality. And that's what this intervention is all about. It exists in the field all around us, and the evidence is stacking up. And very soon, it's going to burst onto the mainstream, the evidence of what's taking place. Both genetic, which is incontrovertible, it doesn't happen by chance, how chromosomes suddenly mutate all at once with no earthly advantage or evolutionary benefit to it, or 9 inversions in the chromosomes. It doesn't happen by chance. It's done to create a species which can be effectively, has been downgraded, controlled. That's what this game has been about. Disconnected from the flow. We are a soul that flows down through the dimensions, and we have been disconnected at the 4th dimension. And Gaia has been too. When we sat in communion with Gaia back in the summer, we felt basically that she'd been spinning out of control, that she had almost given up. This is how we felt it. But then a Kundalini reawakening happened for Gaia, and the energy reconnected again with the higher realm, with the middle realm. And we felt that reconnection started to happen. And after that, we felt a lot of agitation on the plane of the intellect, the 3rd density, which is, for me, a big part of going to Egypt and experiencing that, and also experiencing the breakdown of that. It's no coincidence that right now you have Egypt is divided as a country along very quite dogmatic religious fundamentalism. Like there's religious fundamentalism coming in, and 50% of the population are really up in arms against that. It is breaking down. And to me, this is very symbolic of this whole control drama that's gone on for thousands of years. So that needed to be broken down. And I've certainly felt that breaking down process has very strongly begun. And I've also felt the repatriation of these extraterrestrial beings that are in the field around us. I've also felt a repatriation or a relocation going on, a draining away. But it's not something that's going to happen overnight, because all of the systems that support 7 billion people on the planet, all of those systems are fed by this matrix of consciousness. And if you pull the plug on that overnight, you get chaos. So to me, it's progressive. It's going to progressively change, progressively implode step by step. We're seeing it all around us now if you take a look. We're seeing the escalation of food prices. We're seeing the escalation of debt because society's been living beyond its means. And this has caused this huge logjam on Earth in the flow of energy, which is now breaking free. And a big part of this was the movement of Gaia into the 5th dimension, centering in the fifth dimension. And so now, as she unravels that energy over time in this lower realm, the lower realm is going to transmute. The word I used on the film was compost, and it's kind of going to do that. It's kind of going to break down, and the energy is going to move over time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen over time. It's hard to say exactly what time, because we're talking about an event line where various things have to come into play in order for the next thing to happen. But to me, if I had to call it, I would say 2 or 3 human generations of a cleansing, a purification, and a movement of the light into the higher dimension. This is what I see. And we, all of us, are invited to join that ascension, that movement of energy. And it's going to get increasingly, the impetus is going to get stronger. We are going to see increasingly mirrors all around us. We already are, if we choose to look. It's now is the time to respond to the mirrors. When the synchronicity that speaks through you as your soul, when your soul speaks to you, now is the time to respond. Not tomorrow, not the day after, because tomorrow may never come. There is today, and there is a response that you can give today. And if you align with that inner feeling, that upwelling, if we align with that, we're carried on a journey, an absolutely magical journey through the outer world, but really it's an inner journey through layers of consciousness. It is, of course, a spiritual path. And what I'd like to do now is show a short film, again, that Trinity produced, which has a brief overview of what we mean by the spiritual path.
There comes a point in our lives when we realize we've been running around in circles. We've been trying to find happiness and contentment by fixing the external drama. But everything on the outside is merely a reflection of what's within. We can change our relationships, jobs, and even location, but these are all just the circumstances, the effects of what's going on inside. We may already be awake, but we won't truly change our reality until we discover the purpose of life itself, until we discover what causes the patterns that repeat again and again and again. The blockages and veils that limit must be confronted and peeled away, and this is a continual process on the spiritual path. To us at Openhand, the purpose of life is to express the wonder of our soul, the beauty and eternal majesty of pure being. It is to unveil what blocks us and allow unbridled self-expression to shine forth. Then to trust that this will shape exactly the experiences we need to evolve, expand and grow. The spiritual path is about having the courage to let go, to embrace whatever comes our way with openness, surrender, and humility. But surrender is not the same as acceptance of anything goes. It is also finding the courage and commitment to dive in and fully explore what we are already creating. It's not about trying to manifest a more desirable reality. Whose desire is that exactly? The highest self has already chosen. It's already created the perfect circumstances to know yourself as what you truly are. Along with the others that you draw to you, your highest self has already co-created the perfect conditions, the perfect constraints for you to expand out of and unleash fullness of expression.
The spiritual path is about confronting the moment with a constant conscious choice. Life is continually presenting mirrors saying, this is what you're being now. Does that serve you? You create everything in your life. If something doesn't serve you, then why have you created it? What is it that you need to learn? What do you need to let go of? Take responsibility, ownership. The moment we move into blame of something or someone else is the moment we lose our power. The soul is our journey of expression of the one self, absolute completeness, that which is everything and lacks nothing. So what is it that you think you need from a situation? Can you accept it as it already is? What aspect of beingness are you being invited to find? If this were the last moment of your life, what would you choose as the finest expression of you? The epitaph that lived on. In any challenging circumstance, where we find it difficult to progress or make a choice, it's never about shall I do this or that. It's always about what expression of beingness am I now being invited to find? What's the most evolved expression of me? Whether it be surrender and acceptance, humility and humbleness, non-judgmental discernment, the passion to speak out, or the courage and conviction to endure. These are all frequencies of beingness, a vibrational feeling you can touch, harness, and grow inside just by bringing your attention to them, especially when you think you need an outcome. You'll find there's no need to make a choice. Simply by finding the right beingness, the correct path unfolds before you. The spiritual path chooses itself. So find and let beingness speak through you now and in every moment. Conjure it as it activates within. Bring attention to it. Let it grow, well up, and sing through you. Finding this authentic beingness can be tricky, but you'll be supported by signs and synchronicity, the objective voice of the universe, helping you be all that you can be. What feeling does that cloud formation activate inside? The movement of the trees or the singing of the birds? What happens to you when you hear the lyrics of a song that answers all your current questions? How do you feel inside when a touch of divine magic ignites your life? This magic is already a part of who you are. Trust in it. Let it breathe through you. Let pure knowing speak to you and the pull of the heart guide you. Let go. What have you got to lose? Walk the path of your soul now and in every moment. You'll hear it when you listen. But don't expect what you want. Don't expect material abundance, for these are only transient effects. Expect instead the causality of life, inner completeness, self-acceptance and love for all life, and boundless joy of living. A way of living that fearlessly embraces all, even the suffering of pain and discomfort. They all become transient. They flow into your life as a fullness of expression that you are. Give yourself entirely to them, but without attachment. And life will become like a powerful wave rushing through you, animating your being, filling each and every waking moment. This is the spiritual path. To me, there's one crucial thing that we really need to discover in walking the spiritual path, and I feel like I say it many times, and I feel to say it again and again and again. Yet humanity is still so invested in the outcome of what goes on. whether I get this job, whether I have that house, whether I'm in this relationship or not. We're still so invested in the mirror. When what creates the mirror is what we're being inside. So if you want to change the outer mirror, find who and what you really are and unfold it. Because the most power you will ever have, power beyond imagination, power beyond society, beyond the 1%, the bankers, the politicians, they have nothing. They're grasping at straws that's slipping through their fingers. But you have unlimited power right inside of you. And the power is your being. Because your being is already creating everything, and we don't always realize it. We are already creating it. We don't have to intentionally manifest. This is just a wafer-thin mind-based bubble that goes pop at some point. We are already creating with our consciousness. Look in the mirror and ask the question, why have I created that? Why am I having a bust-up with that person? Why can I not pay the rent? Why am I being kicked out of my apartment? Why is this happening? What is it doing to me inside? How is it making me less than what I really am, which is eternal, which cannot die, which exists everywhere, cannot go anywhere because it is everything. So every event, circumstance in the mirror is asking you, in your life, is saying, who are you being now? Does this serve you? Is there a higher expression of being that you can be? You can change your job. You can change your relationships or your location, but you only change the circumstances unless you've changed this. But it's not having an idea of what you want to be and imposing that on this. That's also an illusion which bursts. There is destiny. There is your soul ray harmonic. There is really what you are. And giving yourself to that all the time, in every moment. And when you do that, you watch this magic carpet unfold before you. You don't have to make a choice. Choice is actually an illusion. It ultimately becomes an illusion. If you are faced with a choice and you don't know whether to do this or this, there is one place to look. One answer you're looking for. It's not, shall I do this or this? It is, how am I being invited to be now? How am I being invited to be now? If you ever face a difficult choice, find the thread of beingness that you're being invited to unveil and express. And then the path just chooses itself. It happens. The path unfolds before you. And it leads you on a journey through life. And where does it take us? Well, I've put this up quite a few times before. I'm not going to go through it. Just very briefly. It takes us through 5 gateways. Why 5? Because very simply, there are 5 densities which we're moving into, which we're breaking attachment to. We're breaking attachment to the physical world, the whole existential world of money, of possessions, of goods, of tiredness, of food, of sex, of the whole 9 yards. We're breaking attachment to the physical things. Then we're breaking attachment to the emotional things. I'm not saying we shouldn't express. I'm saying let's fully express, but not be attached. Let's break the attachments and reclaim the divinity that was within us. And if we do that, we start moving up through these dimensions. And ultimately, we break into the 5th dimension. And we start to become Homo Divinicus. What is Homo Divinicus? we don't have, we have 7 chakras. Everybody speaks of the 7 chakras, but very few speak of the 7 bodily vehicles of expression. One of each goes with each chakra. We don't just have one body, but we have 7. And these 7 are all arrayed within these 2 realms of consciousness, the lower and the middle realm. They're all arrayed already within those dimensions. We already have those vehicles there. But most people, in the beginning, these higher vehicles, the higher self has been closed off because of this intervention that's happened in the 4th dimension. It's playing these resonant frequencies down here which attach people into the lower realm. It's like being in an orchestra and someone's banging the bass drum really loud. So all you can hear is the bass drum. You can't hear these frequencies, and after a while you forget they exist. And so we're living down here. But as you open up by walking the spiritual path, ultimately you open into this multidimensionality, this Homo Divinicus of which I'm speaking. How does that work? Well, the energy comes down in through the crown chakra. It goes into the spirit light body. Some call it the macabre. The macabre, it chooses the dimension in which you're given to act, because we're multidimensional beings. Whether to act in the lower realm, the physical realm, whether to act in the space of the 4D to confront your karma, whether to act through synchronicity with the deeper message through life to align with this higher flow. So the spirit light body is choosing where we're given to act. And then the energy comes next into the 3rd eye, into what I call the celestial body. Now how this works is this. The 3rd eye is looking into the outer world. It's noticing signs and synchronicities, but it's comparing a pattern against what it knows of its own beingness. I'll give you an example. I did a seminar once up in Bath, and I was exploring the feeling of being motivational. I felt motivated. I felt up. I felt like I really, my passion and yearning to motivate other people. And this group came in, and it must have been late after work or something, but they were really, really somber and, deep to the heads down and, long faces. And I was giving this seminar and it didn't improve. And I thought, oh my God, maybe it's me, maybe it's time to give up, go and do something else. Maybe the signs are speaking to me. And I found very quickly that I'm getting more and more somber. And this didn't serve. So I'm asking the question, show me what is going on here. What is going on? And my attention is then drawn out into the audience. There's this little lady sitting on the back row, and she's hidden behind one person, very small. And she's looking out from behind this person. She's got this broad smile on her face like this, right? Just one person in the audience. And as soon as I connected with that person, it's like, yes, I can feel me. This is me. That's the attunement of beingness. As a result, I'm now radiating a sense of positivity, a sense of passion. I mean, you can feel it now, surely. I mean, I can feel it if nobody else can. Yeah, I can feel this sense of commitment to the message that I really feel to give. And as a result, you're putting energy out in the field. But it's not something you intentionally manifest. Your attention is given to notice beingness. What are you being? Where is the distortions that you have, and where is the true gifts that you have? Peel away those distortions. Peel away that density and let the light shine through. This is the 3rd eye and how it works through the celestial body. Next, it comes into higher mind, connecting through the throat chakra, the 5th density. What we're doing now is we're co-creating together. It's like we have a sacred contract, because you guys didn't come here by chance. Well, most of you didn't anyway. You didn't come here by chance. Things don't happen by chance. There's a divine orchestra to it all. And even if we're unaware of it, there is this co-creative organizing flow going on. And the more you open higher mind through the throat chakra, the more you start to sense the synchronicity of the co-creative flow. So you're not just going through life, oh yeah, I've got to get to my job tomorrow, it's 9 o'clock, and I've got to be there by a certain time. It's, you look into the world and you read the deeper meaning through higher mind. And your actions are shaping according to a multidimensional landscape. We all have this capacity. In the beginning, as we're walking the path, it gets switched on and switched off. Like we'll notice some synchronicities, like we'll get pulled, to travel somewhere in America, Peru maybe, or something like, something like that. We'll notice 3 or 4 synchronicities. But when higher mind is open, it's like streaming synchronicity. You're in a flow, like being in a river, and all the time the signs are popping up, and your soul is responding to that multidimensional landscape. This is a big part of Homo Divinicus, a big part of it. Next, the energy comes down into the heart chakra, into the causal body. The causal body contains the blueprint for the lower vehicles. It's how the lower vehicles are shaped. It's why we came into incarnation, to confront our karma, our attachments of past lives. And that karma radiates out into the world, into our relationships particularly. And it places filters between our relationships and asks us to unwind those judgments. It's often based on judgment, how we might judge a partner or a friend or a relation. And so we're invited to unwind these, and then the energy goes deeper down into the lower realm. It's now, lower mind is connecting the dots. This is where we read the synchronicities in a way that we can act in a lower dimensional sense. So it's like up here, we're told what to do, and down here, we're told how to do it. The mind figures out how to do what I've been told to do. It is not supposed to be figuring out what to do, but how to do it. Here's the key difference between Homo Divinicus and Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens is using mind to figure out what to do, whereas Homo Divinicus is using higher mind. It knows what to do because it's already a part of the flow. And working with lower mind, oh yeah, I'm supposed to travel off to Timbuktu or Machu Picchu or wherever it is. How am I going to do that? I better go on to eBay or wherever it is, last minute or whatever it is you're booking a flight from. Yeah, my mind's going a bit fuddled. But anyway, lower mind is supposed to figure out how to do it. Yeah, and then we come into the emotional body through the sacral chakra. We're now building passion around emotion, around our creative act. If I stood here and just talked like this, yeah, this is quite a nice evening, we're having a quite nice talk. I mean, that wouldn't, what's that going to inspire? Nothing. But emotion wells up. It's a part of being divine. It's a part of Homo Divinicus. But not something you hold on to, get attached to. It comes in, it builds passion, emotion, and then it flows out. We don't hold on to it, but so often we are storing so much emotional pain in through the sacral chakra in the emotional body. Pain that we must open into, confront and let go of, which is a big part of walking the path, the spiritual path. Finally, not first, finally it comes into the physical body, where all of that energetic, creative impulse now gets reflected through the physical vehicles. This, to me, is what Homo Divinicus is all about, is opening to this multidimensionality. That's what it's all about. Now, there's something which is really important right now, and this is all a question of timing. It's all a question of timing. Because, as I said earlier, in my understanding, in my knowing, in my feelings, we have 2 or 3 generations in order to unfold into this being. Because life is going to become unlivable on this planet. That's my feeling. That's what I've been shown. So, what I'm shown by Gaia is the need for quite a long period of reharmonization, of recalibration, of kind of incubation here for a long period of time. And I mean, that could be, hundreds of thousands of years. That could be that after this cleansing process. So what I'm given is that we need to process our karma so that we can actually move up into this middle realm and then open the higher vehicles too in the higher realm. Now, some people will not complete that in 2 or 3 generations, in which case, in my knowing, they'll be held in the 4th dimension, where until another incarnation possibility happens. And when that happens, for Homo Divinicus, what I understand is that vehicles will be recreated according to this new blueprint, similar to this one, similar DNA configuration, but where all the convolutions have gone, where there's a greater sense of harmony with where the soul is now at, because there is a disharmony because of the intervention I've spoken of between the physical nature and the spiritual soul nature. And this is the recalibration that I believe needs to happen and is going to happen. But for those who have ascended, in other words, they've processed all their karma in this realm, in this dimension, the 4th density, they will ascend and move up and be opening these higher vehicles, and their journey will continue. And to me, I'm given the name then of Divinicus, just Divinicus, where we will take on bodily vehicles that are more light-based rather than dense physical. And this is already happening. It's already being constituted in these realms. This middle realm is already there. The new world already exists, and there are already souls, in my knowing, that are existing within these 2 realms. Divinicus is already happening in my knowing. We captured an essence in a film we made. We showed it here a couple of years ago called 5 Gateways. We captured an essence of this resurrection into multidimensional form on the 5th gateway of the film that we produced. And I'd like to complete the seminar by showing this last part of the film, the Gateway 5, because I think that it really captures the essence of Homo Divinicus and what being multidimensional really means. So I'd like to show that film as a final one.
The primary vehicle of expression in this plane is the physical body. It's the ultimate expression of form. It's very common that we get lost within that form. We think we are that form.
The final gateway is called the resurrection, the 5th gateway. What is this all about?
What am I looking for now when everything feels back?
Well, in our earlier part of our journey, as we've been identified and kind of lost within this external drama, then the full complement of human skills have really closed down. We don't just have one body of expression, we actually have 7. And they range from various essences of consciousness, from physical through to energetic and etheric, spirit light body, for example. And many of these have closed down as we become so identified with the physical body. Well, in the 5th gateway, the soul is allowed to flow freely, and the soul will now finally enter all 7 bodily vehicles of expression. It will cleanse them, it will purify them, reactivate and re-energize them. So what happens is we start to acquire new skills of sensitivity. Our psychic skills become stronger and stronger and stronger. We sense much more of the surrounding environment. We read synchronicities much more strongly. We get to see that there's this natural flow. We become part of that natural flow. It's happening all around us. There's no separation of our action and the coordinate activities of the universe. There's one symphony, one beautiful orchestra happening, and we are in the center of that.
As I let go of anything that doesn't serve me, a magical path forms in front of me. That's far more magical than anything I could create with my mind. I'm creating in harmony with the universe, and everything that forms around me is divine.
So in this transition, gradually over time, we are dealing with the final fragments of conditioned behaviors. We're no longer lost in them, but we will reactivate them. So for example, if we've had attachments in the past in relationships, it may well be that our beingness manifests a partner that's very close in our vibration, which brings out those distortions in us. And here really is where profound self-honesty is required in those relationships, to own up to our own energetic issues and to go deep within those and dissolve them. So we're behaving all the time more and more authentically. We're owning our own creative process. We're blaming nothing outside of ourselves. We are absolute creators and therefore masters of our experience. This is the Gateway 5 transition.
And so it's like I am truly part of the co-creative force of the universe now. That is my way of being, and it plays out for me every day in different ways. And when it plays out in what I would call a kind of big sequence, it's so moving, it's just so divine.
There's absolutely no need whatsoever to intend anything at all, to manifest or create something, because we are that creation. All we have to do is be authentic, be true to our authentic beingness, and we'll find that the world shapes around us. This is what defines the resurrection.
That, to me, the film defines very well what I've been talking about, this whole multidimensional experience, and how everything can speak to us. You know, how the surroundings, the trees, the birds, the rocks even, how that can speak to us. How magical, how divine that is. And how that's in every single one of us. And how that is our destiny, what we're coming forwards to and reclaiming. In many ways what was taken from us, but what we're taking back. This is what, for me, lies in store for people honestly walking down the path and following that destiny. That's, to me, what Homo Divinicus really is all about. Thank you very much for listening. I'm open to taking, you may have plenty of questions, I'm open to taking some questions if people have any that they'd like to ask. It's all clear. It's all obvious. We're all there. Thank you very much.